Camera 1. Camera 2. Camera 3. Why the hell? What's good, Internet? My name is Attack Slug, and welcome to What's in My Room. I know some folks have been asking recently for an updated room tour, and I feel like room tours can be a bit superficial, right? You're holding the camera, you're panning around, you're panning past all kinds of cool stuff. And my years and years of playing inventory management in Resident Evil and Tetris, I have crammed a lot of stuff in this room. So I thought, instead of doing okay, here's me panning the camera for a room tour, why not pick a couple of things and give a backstory on them and whatnot? Because I have an awful lot of stuff, and generally most things that I keep for any kind of extended period of time have a story that goes along with that. So I picked like 5 things here, and let's just kind of get into it. Ammo row. Number 1, we have a plush Harrow from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. And I bought this during an anime convention sometime late 90s, early 2000s. This thing is basically old enough to vote at this point. It is old enough to buy cigarettes, but not quite old enough to buy booze. And personally, I would have preferred it to not have these flaps, because it has the arms, right? It has the little Harrow arms. I prefer more of a symmetry. You can see it's falling apart in the insides here. I'll get to that in a second. But I prefer more of a symmetry, but it has the little arms. It's accurate to the show. And I always kind of felt bad. Gundam Wing was a huge deal, right? And apparently, they were like, oh, we need more Gundam on TV. And so instead, they showed the original Mobile Suit Gundam, which is, compared to Gundam Wing, like, I love that show, but that's not what's going to go over well. So blame the original license holders for making that dumb deal. But yeah, you can see here that the felt is, like, falling apart. And if I had a glue gun, I could totally get that fixed. But again, I don't really like the little armhole flap deals. To me, it's not great. Like, I would have preferred just to have a plush just all around Harrow. Been sitting in boxes for a number of years here, but it's still part of my collection, if you will. Number 2, we have some wood. I got this thing. This is a rubber band just made of wood and clothespins from Six Flags Great Adventure. Again, at some point in the mid-90s. And I feel like you couldn't really sell this today. Like, it's legit just a piece of wood, right? It's just some dude carved this thing and then glued clothespins to it. And all you do here is take your rubber band. There's a little notch right in there. Put the band in that notch. Put it on the clothespins. And you have a very effective item for annoying the crap out of your little sister, if you will. Boom! So yes, this thing I've had forever, and I will probably never get rid of this. But I feel like the wood in the trigger area here has sort of rotted a little bit. You kind of can't, it's hard to see. But this used to be way smoother, and you can kind of do, the twirling here, and it wouldn't really hurt your finger. Now it's like, it's a little rough on the finger, and is not particularly great. But, a minor complaint, considering I've had this thing since the mid-90s at the earliest. So it's been in my collection for a while, if you will. Speaking of the mid-90s, though, the grossest thing in today's video is a Packard Bell keyboard. Legitimately from 1996. My first real computer. My first introduction to the internet. This is some old school stuff. And honestly, I keep it around for one very important reason. All my other keyboards are USB keyboards. This keyboard is a PS2. That is the name of the port keyboard. And having a PS2 keyboard is a good thing when you're accidentally screwing up your USB drivers and then all of a sudden your keyboard doesn't work and you can't get into Windows. So always having an extra keyboard. Obviously, I could have bought a newer keyboard, but look, this still works. This plastic is yellow, the back is white. It's like an old Super Nintendo, but it still works. And that's the important part. I keep it around as A, reminder of my first ever real computer, and B, because sometimes you just need a PS2 keyboard. And actually, before I forget, the other thing that I bought at that long ago anime convention is the original manga for FLCL. Like the untranslated Japanese, I can't read this, but at the time I was buying every single thing I could find from this brand, from this franchise. So that was a fun time. Eventually it got translated, but I still had the original here that I bought at that convention, and they were like way overcharging for it, but you know what? I didn't care. Had to get it. But in other bits of anime and manga collectibles, we have my only remaining Portrait of Pirates. That's right, 100 shots, 100 hits. It's Sogeking, aka Usopp, from One Piece. One of my favorite shows of all time. I used to have all the Straw Hats. They've put out so many of these, and they're not cheap, but they put out so many of these. I only wanted the Straw Hats. So I had, the 8 or 9 at the time Straw Hats. And unfortunately, sometimes rent is due, and these things retain their value pretty well. So I sold Luffy, and I sold Frankie, and Robin, and Nami, and Chopper, and Brook, but I could not bring myself to sell the King of the Snipers. I just couldn't do it. My all-time favorite character from the show, so I just could not bring myself. He's got 2 different masks. It's awesome. And go Usopp, go. So yes, I've seen every episode. I've read every chapter. It is probably the longest media thing I've ever done in my life, considering it's been running since the late 90s at this point. I started watching at episode 93, and they're on episode 720 something now. There's a lot. There's a lot. I'm not sure how you would get into it now. I'm not sure how you would... Alright, I'm gonna start watching One Piece. It's oh man, you are in for, 1, an amazing ride, but B, a very long ride. And you can't just start watching it from the current stuff, even the current arc. There's so much character stuff, there's so much history there. The world building, backstory, it's a lot. So, One Piece is awesome, but man, imagine trying to get into it in 2018. That seems insane to me. And the last bit of business I have here is an autographed copy of Marilyn Manson's autobiography, Long Hard Road Out of Hell, that I personally acquired myself back in 1998 during a book tour in Philadelphia. So I was dead set on going to that book tour. Had not seen him in concert at that point, not until 99, right? So I actually went to the book tour and did the whole handshake signature thing before I even saw them in concert. But it was at the time, I got lucky, because my high school girlfriend, actually her aunt lived in Philadelphia. So we had went out there the day before, right, stayed overnight at the aunt's house, and then in the morning went to the book signing. But here's the funny part though, right? I actually have not just 1 copy, but I have 2 copies. Because I was so impatient at the time, I obviously bought a copy on the day of release. The book tour was many days later, maybe even weeks. And when you got to the book tour, they were like, we can't autograph the one you already have, you gotta buy one. So I owned the book twice. It was $25 at the time, and I have 1 regular and 1 autographed copy, which I have not read in a number of years. I don't know if it holds up. Now, I don't have the ridiculously big hat that I wore to that. I don't think I have that anymore. It was this hat I got at Great Adventure, just this giant, black and white checkerboard hat with a big rim, and he was like, yeah, nice hat. And I'm like, hell yeah, it's a nice hat. So that's my weird meeting Manson story. So it wasn't until the following year that I saw them on tour, which they were supposed to have a whole opening with them, and then Courtney Love decided to not be on the tour anymore, so that was a whole different story. And I went and saw them in Philadelphia on Easter Sunday, which is a different story for a different time. How I managed to get that done is insanity. But that is just kind of scratching the surface on the amount of ridiculous things I have contained in this very room. Not everything is video games, not everything is anime. I would say a lot of it is, but not all of it. And there are just weird little things in kind of every nook and cranny that even I've, at this point, forgotten I even own, because, you can't keep track of everything. So, I don't know. If you guys enjoyed this video, and you want to see more weird or interesting stuff that is contained within this room, certainly let me know down in the comments. I'm trying to make some different stuff lately. And if it goes over well, then perhaps I'll do more. But if nobody cares, then I'll move on to something else. So that's kind of how things go with camera 1, camera 2, and camera 3. I'm Attack Slug. Thanks for watching. More videos every day. I'll see you next time, right here on this channel. And I'm out.